Hello guys, welcome back to my Python tutorials. In this tutorial we are going to talk about data types in Python. Generally in programming, data types is very important and is very useful. So I'm going to teach you everything about data types and all you need to know about data types. Variables can store different types of data. When you create a variable and you assign a value to it, like in our previous tutorials, though you don't know the data types I was assigning to those variables, but in this tutorial you're going to know what we're doing there. So you're going to know the different types of data in Python and how to use them. Data types in Python are categorized as follows. Number one, we have the text type. Like in your code, if you want to assign text into your variable, we use the text type, which is called string. Then in short form, it's called str. Then we have the numeric types. That one is classified into three. We have the integer. Under the numeric types of data, we have the integer, we have the float, and the complex. The short form of integer is the int. Then we have the float, we have the complex. Then we have the third type of data, the third data types, which is the sequence type, which includes the list, tuple, and range. Then we have the four data type, the number 4, the mapping type, which is the dict, short form of dictionary. To map different data into a variable, we use the dictionary, or we call it dict. Then the number 5, we have the set types. The set types include the set and the frozen set. Then the boolean type. The boolean type includes the bool. This boolean type returns true or false. Then we have the binary types, which includes the bytes, the byte array, and the memory view. Let's go back to our program to implement them one by one. Just follow me up and you understand better. We are going to illustrate these data types one after the other. Let's talk about the string, my var. Let's define a variable called my var. Then we'll assign a value to it. Let's say I am string. Now, like I say, string is the text type, and strings are always defined within quotation marks. So we created our variable and we assigned this string into this variable. Let's create another variable let's call it value. You can name your variable anything. Remember, you can name your variable anything. Value equal to 45. This is an integer. Note the difference between strings and integers. Strings are always defined within quotation marks, be it double quotes or single quotes, while integers are not defined within quotation marks. Let's come down and print it. Let's say print my var, and print value. Since we have these values stored inside our variable, let's access it, see what's happened. We are getting these values here, which are stored inside our variables. I am string and 45. These are the values stored inside our variables. So 45 is an integer. Or you call it int in its short form. While this other line is called string. This is a string. Let's create another variable. Then let's name it. Let's call it another. You can name your variable anything. Let's say x equal to, let's say 45.6. Any value or data with decimal point is called float. Under numeric data type, while the one without decimal point is called integer under numeric data type. This is float. Let's come down and create another one and assign a value to it. Let's say 5j. Normally in mathematics, this is complex number. This is what we call complex number, and it's also called complex here. Let's come down and now print, and then print x, also print y, print y. Let's run our program and see. You see now, I am string, we have 45, we have 45.6. Okay, that's how to access values at the output. How do we know the type of value we are working with? To get the data type of any object or variable, we use the type function. Let me show you what I mean. We use this function type. Like I told you initially, any word that comes with open and close bracket or parenthesis like this is not just an ordinary word. It is called a function. It is a function. It's a built-in function. So in Python, we use the type function to get the type of data, to know the type of data we are working with. So all this data we define, then how do we get to know them? We use the type function to do that. Okay, let's inside this our print, let's do more things. Type inside another parenthesis. You see the first bracket close, the second bracket close. Very important. If you fail to do that, you will get syntax error. This type is used to know what type of data we are working with. Let's print it and see. You see now, we have seen class. Look at it, class, string. We are not having my variable there again. So we use the type function to access or to know which data type we are working with. So the program has already told us we're working with string. This data type is strings. Let's know this particular one as well. Let's know this particular one. Which type of data is this value? We assign 45 into value, and we say 45 is an integer or int. Let's know what that. You see now, class int. So that type of data is an integer. That type of data is an integer. We assign 45.6 into the x variable, and we say it is a float. It is a float data type. So let's know what type of data is x. What type of data is stored inside that variable? It is what? Float. Class float. So it is the float data type that is stored inside what? X. Okay, we say this one is complex. Let's verify it. Type. You see now, class complex. You see now, you understand? That is how to access or to get data types, or to know the data types you are working with. We talked about another data type. We have talked about string, numeric, sequence. Let's enter into the third data type now, which is the sequence types: list, tuple, and range. Okay, let's go into our program and define it. List, tuple, and range. Let's talk about list now. My list equal. We use the square bracket to define list. To define list of objects. We use the square bracket to define a list of objects. Let's say boy, girl, no. This is a list. So this is how to define a list. Print my underscore list. Let's print let's get that variable. Print, you see now, boy, girl, and what? No. These are the objects inside our list variable. Then let's talk about tuple. Let's create another my tuple. We use the normal bracket or parenthesis to define tuple. Say boy, or let's use another thing. Let's say dad, mom, and what? None. Okay. This is tuple. This one is tuple. So we use the normal parenthesis or brackets to define tuple. You can name it. So we are storing all these objects or data inside this variable named tuple, my tuple. So let's print my tuple. Let's see that. You see what we're having here? So we're having, these are the objects of data inside our tuple. Dad, mom, and what? And none. So that's how to define tuple. Right, let's talk about the range function now. Let's define a function called myRange. Say myRange. Then we'll assign a variable to it. Range. The range function is used to return sequence of numbers, and is commonly used to iterate over sequence of codes using loop functions. For I in my range, print I. So as you can see, the range function returns, and the default setting is 0, and so we use the range function to return sequence of codes, sequence of numbers, as you have seen here. It returns from 0 to the particular number specified. Let's do something like this: range, -6. We store the range of this number from 0 to 18 inside this variable myRange, and when we run it, it runs from 0. Its default counting starts from 0, so we run from 0 to 17. That is how the range function works. Our next data type is the mapping type, which is dictionary, or in short, you use dict. We use the curly bracket to define dictionary. Let me create a variable named mydict. Then we use the curly bracket. Let's define some values. Name. These are to define dictionary. Name. And let's say name. Let's say my name is, let's say, John. Then comma, and to get the age of the user. Alright, age. Then to assign any value of age, let's say 20. You can do a whole lot of things here. Then you close the curly bracket. You will now enter print mydict. When you run the program, you now see the outcome. This is called dictionary. There are a whole lot of things to talk about when it comes to data types and data structures. So you check out for my tutorial videos on data structure and get to understand better. Alright, let's see how we can convert from one data types to the other. So data types conversion. Let's define a variable. Let's say x. Then we'll assign a value to it, 58. Then let's define the value variable. Say y. equal strings. Let's convert this. This is integer. This is an integer. The x, this value assigned to x is an integer. Let's confirm that first. Let's confirm that. Let's say print. Let's print x. Print type. I've told us what this type function is used for, to know the type of value data is an integer. Now let's convert it. Let's convert it to strings. Y equal to st arrow, the short form for string. Xt arrow y equal to xt arrow x. Then say print y. Then print type. Let's say print. Let's know what y is now, as we have converted that integer to string. Let's see it. It says strings 58. The first one was integer. After our conversion, it becomes what? String. So we converted this integer to string. That's how to do it. So the str function can be used to convert an integer into a string. What if you want to convert a string into an integer? Let's say we have s equals any value of variable or data inside quotes, either double or single quote, is referred to as string. It is a string. So let's say we have s to be equal to 58. Let's print s, print type. Let me show you what it means. Print type s. You see, is what? String. It's a string. This last one is a string. Let's convert it to an integer. Let's say we have z equals int s. We have converted. At this stage, we are converting this string, which is installed in the s variable, into an integer, and we'll install it inside the z variable. Let's say print type. Let's determine the type after our conversion. Let's determine what is it. Print type z is what? Integer. Is it understood? What about float? Let's define a floating number. The float number is a number with decimal point. Let's say we have 0.8. Print. Let's say the type of variable is that it's a float. For confirmation, let me show you. Print type c. It is all float. You can see it down here. It is float. It is a floating number. It's a floating point number. But let's convert it to integer. Let's say float int, using the int function. We'll convert it to an integer and store it inside D. Float into int, then print type. Let's see the type now after our conversion. Print type D to become what? Integer. Can you see it below here? That is how it works. Then also let's talk about, maybe we'll convert from integer to float. Converting from integer to float. Where is our integer? Okay, our integer is this x. X is here, which was our integer. Let's say we'll convert it to float. V equals float x, and print our x normally is assigned to an integer. X is an integer. We are converting it to a floating point number now. Converting it to a float. So let's print type v. Can you see it now? That is how to convert between data types. Okay, let's write more interesting program. Let's say we have name to be equal let's say name equals Juliet and age equals 36. Print my name is name, comma, and I am age years old. Okay, let's use the plus operator, the addition operator, to concatenate the strings and see the outcome now. Okay, plus or bracket. That was the problem. String, look at this now. It's a type error, can only concatenate what string, not integer. We received that error because we were trying to concatenate strings and integer, which was not supposed to be. You can only concatenate strings, not integer to strings. So let's convert the integer to string now and see what happened. We have here is string, and here the age is an integer. So let's convert that age to a string first. Okay, let's convert the age to string. Age, let's the arrow. You see now, my name is what? Juliet, and I am what? 36 years old. Is it understood? My name is Juliet, and I am 36 years old. Perfect. That is what I wanted to show us. That's how to convert from one data types to the other. You can convert different types of data to another.